Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Garrett. So welcome, dude.
Hey Kendrick, how's it going?
Good, man. So what was your official typing result when you got it? I know you got it a while back, but yeah, go ahead.
It was Ni-Ti SC, or Sleep, Consume, Play, Blast, MF.
And what did you think and how did you feel when you got your typing results back?
I think at that point in time I was looking for a couple of specific items of information in terms of essentially just trying to understand some things about myself. So when I got it back, I don't think I had the same response, as strong as a response as people going like, oh wow, this explains so much. It was more that some of things didn't line up, some things lined up, so I guess I kind of had a mixed response.
So which areas did you feel made sense and which parts didn't quite line up in your case?
Let's see. I think the TI lined up a lot because I should have probably went over my video. I'm trying to remember exactly what they said in the response thing, or trying to own reasons and kind of figure stuff out on my own. I guess that lined up a lot. With the NIs, especially feminine NI at the top, saying that I see a lot of patterns and that I guess that's how they described it, seeing a lot of patterns, even though some people might construe that as any because it's feminine NI. But that didn't come across for me as very salient or very, because from my perspective, I'm trying to see patterns, but I don't actually, in myself and in others with typology, but I'm not really at the point yet where I'm seeing I'm not really disoriented by an influx of a lot of patterns that I think are correct. It's more like it's maybe more of a TI thing. Also energy dominance, I would say that I'm very focused on figuring things out, which it's more information focused from my perspective, and missing blast would mean that I'm energy dominant. So saying that I am very focused on preserving or expending energy and trying to find the balance between those two poles. I didn't see that as much either. Probably some other stuff, but I guess that's a good starting point.
So would you say you are play last instead of blast last then?
People have said that, I think. No, people have said, no, yeah, I think people have suggested that. In terms of my own opinion on my type, it's not very solid. Let's see. If I was play last, I would say info dominant makes more sense for me. Whatever that would look like, probably in the form of play last due to my low energy and stuff like that. Because sleep last doesn't really make a lot of sense. So probably play last would make more sense, I guess, than that. But I wouldn't necessarily go all in on that. I might be just missing something, and I might be like blast last or consume last or whatever.
Well, what about being an energy dominant? So are you obsessed with preserving and expending energy, or are you more obsessed with having the most accurate information?
Most accurate information. This goes back to the stuff that I was trying to understand more. Was more about the question, how do I know that, is a question I ask myself a lot, and I take it seriously, more seriously than other people do.
Yeah.
So I would say, making sure I have the correct information.
I've only been talking to you for 8 minutes, and you give me zero vibe that you have play above blast. Like, you, like just the vibe I'm getting off you right now. You
Sure.
are very much, in my opinion, play last. That's what I can see. It's almost like the first thing I even saw right when we started talking. Uh, that play energy is just not there. It's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Yeah. So, well, why don't we discuss this then? So, people would play, even would play demon. It means that you would, what do you call it? Expend energy for the tribe, essentially.
Sure.
You see yourself expending energy for the tribe.
Do I see myself doing that, you asked?
Right. Yes.
No, not, yeah, very little, if at all. Because I guess I'm higher up on my own agenda to an extent than other people are on their own agendas, I guess you could say.
So if someone were to ask you for help, you wouldn't go out of your way to help them.
Well, I've talked about this with people before with regards to type related things, but when I was at school, when I was at college, and somebody like would ask for directions or something like that, even if I didn't really know where the location was they were looking for off the top of my head, I'd pull out this app on my phone that had a map of the campus, and I'd try and figure it out that way for them, help them like that. But in terms of like proactively going out and initiating those types of interactions, not so much.
Okay, so if someone were to engage you, you have no problem helping them out. But you won't go out of your way to volunteer your assistance to someone else.
Not really. I can't think of examples of that.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, people with high sleep are very good at setting boundaries. So would you say you're very, very good at setting boundaries? Like when you don't like something, you can just cut it off and do your own thing?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Setting boundaries, not necessarily with people. It looks like you're talking about, but also with like things and like not just with. Is it just with people? Do you mean or?
It's gonna be with people.
Okay.
It's gonna be with people. So let's say someone is they want you to attend an event.
Like saying no, saying no.
Exactly, saying no. Like when someone goes too far and you're not liking something already, and then you're like, nope.
In terms of saying no, I think it's pretty easy for me to say no to people. That's how I would, I guess, respond to that. It's pretty easy for me to, yeah, I guess that's a good example. Because I've remarked about this before to people that that when they like other people say like, oh man, it's so hard for me to say no. I got all this stuff on my plate, and for me, it's like, how is that and I remember literally having conversations like that with people, like, how is that an issue for you? I don't understand how it can be hard to say no to people, really. So
I think it's because someone doesn't want to offend someone else,
No, yeah. It's just, I mean, I guess I'm putting myself in their shoes. So I'm saying like, okay, yeah, you don't want to offend somebody, but you also, it's like more of the balance between like yourself and other people. Like,
Right.
So I guess maybe that's what it is.
Well, you're clearly demonstrating that you're double decider, so at least that part is accurate. So, but you're quite a very much an IJ, like a very IP version of that IJ, just because of that really low play. I'm even inclined to say that I really don't think you have play above blast. I'm almost like 100% certain you play last.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever speak to David Chan about this, just to clarify?
Yeah, I had a couple follow-up calls with them. They were still sold on the typing, on the original typing. They would tell me that like, oh, and I just thought of something else that I can talk about in terms of stuff that didn't quite add up. Yeah, I did talk to them about it. They reinforced what they had thought initially. But another thing that didn't add up for me was like my type twins. In terms of celebrities, Neil Patrick Harris, in terms of people that in the class and in the community, I guess there's O-Team and Chris. I didn't really see that many, I didn't really, I know you're not going to necessarily see yourself entirely in a type twin, but like this, I think a good example is with Neil Patrick Harris, because like you can literally, like, if you just lay it out, I'm supposed to be more like Neil Patrick Harris from a type perspective than I am like Eminem. I think a lot of people who know me or just even just look at me in passing would say, yeah, that guy just has more of an Eminem vibe than a Neil Patrick Harris vibe. Now, honestly, of course, not honestly, but obviously that's a more of an intuitive argument. But I think it's just kind of obvious to an extent. Yeah, that's just something else that didn't add up.
You are nothing at all like Odom. Odom is abusing play all day. You know, I say that in goodwill, obviously.
No, yeah. He's fun to talk to.
Yeah. So it's very much like high play with Odom, you know, which was quite different too, because I interviewed Chris also, and you know, I would say that in the order of, you know, all three of you are the exact same type, but you know, Odom is definitely, it feels like it's a savior play for him actually, and then Chris would probably be like someone that, yeah, he has play, but it's more like a demon. And then yours just come across as like play last, you know. That's just from like what I'm getting off you guys, or getting off you right now, talking to you.
Sure.
But well, why don't we go down the different functions and animals first before we go back to play? Because the play one is the most, it's the one that's really, I guess, center stage right now. But let's start with NI. So you have feminine NI. So what they say with people with feminine NI or feminine intuition in general is that you tend to forget concepts and patterns that you learn or you pick up. So do you find yourself forgetting patterns and concepts? Like maybe you've read a book or watch a video and you're like, yeah, that's a really good one. And then a day or two later, you completely forgot about it.
I don't, like a concept or that doesn't, off the top of my head, again, I don't really see that happening that much. Yeah, I don't, and I'm not necessarily sure I have a good memory for that stuff either. But a question that might flesh that out a bit more is that I have is if feminine and I is forgetful and more fluid with these concepts and patterns and stuff. That almost seems like a downside. Like, is there an upside to the NI's feminine NI or feminine intuition's relationship with concepts and patterns?
There's a plus side. The feminine plus side is that you're not. Sometimes when something is masculine and it's solid, and it's wrong, then you're going to be falling off a cliff because you're going to be going that one direction, right? But if it's feminine, then it's more movable, right? So you can shift gears or change directions if you need to.
I see.
Right. So there's a lot of benefit to it. There's a lot of negatives, obviously. So it all depends on, it all comes down to right place, right time. Because if you're in the right place, the right time, and you have masculine NI, then you're going to kill it because you're on the path that's going to be moving the right direction. But if you have feminine NI and it's clearly the wrong vision for the future or whichever direction that you want to proceed with your NI vision, then, you know, you're going to be in trouble, right? So, but if it's feminine in that situation, then you're going to be okay to pivot, right? So, so I mean, that's why I was asking you about your feminine NI. So how do you experience your feminine NI?
Yeah, that was one that I didn't see that much because I'm not, like, I'm trying to see the patterns a lot, but I'm not actually swimming in them all the time.
Right.
So that one was one that was harder to see. In terms of like things that might look like it, I guess this is probably going to come up a lot throughout the discussion, or maybe a couple more times. But in addition to like, I actually even haven't mentioned the first part. No, this is the how do you know thing. The how do you know thing is kind of like, that might be related to that in an extent, because it's like I'm not sold on any worldview or opinion or belief system. Not even system, just like, like I don't have a lot of confidence in information, I guess. It's like, I guess that kind of lines up well with demon masculine, a demon masculine observer, right? If you're not really that sold on a fixed view of reality in some way. But I guess I brought that up because I forgot why I brought that up. So maybe that's a bit of feminine NI, I'm not sure. But
well, just from my perspective, since we started the conversation here, you seem very receptive to my opinion and what other people have said. And I think what that tells me is that when it comes to your NI, you're pretty open to hearing what concepts or ideas people have to bring into the table. So you're not you're not set on just that one pattern or one concept. As long as people are providing you with evidence, that's a good clue for you, and you're okay with that. That's what I'm getting off you right now. Just talking to you. I don't know if that sounds accurate to you or not, but that's what it seems like to me. So that tells me that you do definitely have a feminine intuition, because it's not like you're not going to fight me over it. You're like, oh,
sure.
for sure. But why don't we flip over to the opposite of the NI, which is SE, right? So you have masculine SE. It's also double. It's supposed to be double activated if you are typed correctly. But if you're not typed correctly, then it's single activated with that play being last, right? But how do you experience your masculine SE?
I would assume that would be more like having a fixed, solid view about physical reality, right?
It's a lot of different things. So number one, it's the sensory data that you've gathered. That's the first one. It's a fact, right? It's a solid fact. I'll give you an example. If you were doing marketing, for example, and you have two different marketing campaigns, and one of the marketing campaigns gets more sales than the other one, then you would say, well, the fact shows that this campaign is stronger than this one, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but someone with masculine NI might say, no, my vision tells me that this is right. We just have to keep trying it.
I see.
Yeah, but then you would say, if you had masculine SE, you would say, I don't think so, because the facts and numbers is clearly showing that this one is outperforming this one. I don't care about your vision. Your vision's not right because the fact says this is the right one. So that's kind of like the difference.
Sure. I think I can understand that.
So which one would you see yourself following? Which path would you be following? Would you be following the vision, or would you be following the numbers that's being shown to you?
Probably the numbers. What was I going to say? I don't, like in terms of being very solid on the facts, I guess you could say, for masculine S. I don't, because yeah, here's the point I was going to bring up, is that like the how do you know questioning that I do, it's really just a form of questioning. And it's not just that question. I'll ask myself, how do I know that? I'll ask myself, what do I mean by that? But that can get to a point where I can doubt very obvious, what people would say obvious aspects of reality. Like at its most intense moments, I've been like, well, am I hungry? Should I get food? How do I know if I go out the door that there's going to be food there? Stuff like that. Not there'll be food there, but I'll be able to get food. And just doubting like very, what people would say like obvious facts, I guess. So that's something that came up with that.
I think when David Shan said that you are black fast, I think what I'm noticing though is since talking to you also, is that people with play, even though it's a demon, they are more likely to share a story about their life, and you are sharing stories about the way you experience things, but you have yet to give me a single blaster lesson, especially an NF blaster lesson. So
right.
I think in that sense, it does make sense that they would put you as blast last, because like I think the way they made the decision is from a math perspective, not so much from a vibe perspective, because you definitely give me the play last vibe, but like
Mhm.
as I'm talking to you right now, you have given me zero blaster lessons. So I think that's from that perspective, it's kind of like, okay, um, maybe you are blast last because there's no lessons. Like there's no lessons. There's sharing of information and sharing about your experience, but there's no one way. Hey, you know what? This is the lessons that I'm gonna teach you. You know.
Okay, sure.
So that's kind of interesting. I will obviously explore it as we continue this interview. But why don't we go with your masculine TI? So masculine TI is it's almost like a filter of logical inconsistencies, right? Do you see yourself kind of like jumping on people when you hear someone say something that's completely illogical? Would you jump in and say, "Hey, that's wrong," you know?
I'll jump on myself. I won't jump on others.
And how would you jump on yourself when you see that something's wrong?
Like, I'll have a thought and I'll say, well, how do you know that that doesn't really add up? What's your reasons for that? What's your, show your work, essentially? On what basis do you think this? And I don't really jump on others about that. I jump on myself about that a lot.
Got it. And then let's talk about your NF. So your NF is supposed to be your third, um, or it could be fourth if you are mistyped.
Third or fourth, yeah.
Third or fourth, yeah, depending on if you were mistyped or not. Slightly mistyped. But how would you communicate your NF to someone else? Because I think that's the one thing I haven't heard you talk about at all since we started the interview is you haven't used a single F at all since we started this interview. There's no SF or NF, right? So it's a little bit confusing in that sense. But how would you, can you give me an example of how you would talk NF to someone, maybe?
Maybe, I think NF would be linked to spirituality, religion, but also like entertainment and comedy to an extent. I don't know. I used to do stand up to an extent, not really do it, but I tried it out. That's a better way to say it. I was pretty good at it based on like the people not the person who was running the workshop that I did at school. I've also, here's how I kind of think about that. I kind of think about blast or that type of stuff as like output. And I think of stuff that's going from you to other people or you to the world. I think of play as being more, this might be more of a blaster lesson. It sounds a bit like it. But I think play might be a bit more like interactive in terms of like someone does something, improvisation. You're responding to your environment.
Yeah.
And my experience with NF through things like stand up and improv, I think, is where it kind of shows up. I've done improv too, decent at that, but not as quick on my feet or not on my feet, but in my just mentally as other people. And I've also tried doing stand up from like an improvisational perspective, not in the sense that I'm responding to something in real time, but in the sense that I'm just blasting literally on stage, and that hasn't gone as very well. So that's kind of how it's shown up in terms of like how I would communicate it. I don't think I have a lot of, I think what you're noticing is accurate, that I don't have that much NF active because it's just not something I spend time on in my free time, like thinking about patterns that appeal to me or appeal to others or something like that.
Well, I don't feel the back and forth, you know, like playing a tennis or ping pong with you, you know?
Yep.
People with high play like myself, if I was talking to someone with high play also, it's going to be a very rapid back and forth interaction, you know? Basically, I'll say something to you. You'll take what I say, add in your own piece, give it back to me. And the higher your play is, the faster that back and forth becomes, essentially. And, you know, and basically you're both building something that is accumulating into like a climax of entertainment usually, or it could be from a learning perspective too. But you know, you're both building into something. You know.
Sure.
So when I talk to someone with high play, even not high play, even demon play, I could do that with them, right? Uh, so I feel like when I talk to you, there's a little bit of a struggle with that, like pinging back and forth, you know, like
Sure.
so it kind of points to having you as play last, but there's a lot of things that doesn't make sense to me because I haven't heard you blast at all either. So it's like it could go either way because I haven't heard you blast, but I haven't heard you use play at the same time. So it's like, but you are sharing some of your stories, and sharing is play.
Mhm.
People would I do notice that people with high blast and low play does not share their stories. Like they have a trouble sharing their experiences and stories, but you have been sharing your stories and experiences. So in from that perspective, you are using some play. It's not like the typical play though. Like it's not like a very high energy play though. It's like a sharing of a story of the play.
Yeah, based on how you're describing that, I would just based on the definitions that I'm familiar with, I'd expect that to be more of a blast thing because it's known information.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. That's just what I would expect that to be.
I get what you're saying as well, but it's not a lesson, you know, like there's no blaster lessons. So
There's no like, this is the known information. This is how you can use it.
right.
There's no, they're
I'll give
not. Yeah.
I'll give you an example of a blast. All right. So let's go with one of my favorite books, Strength Finder 2.0, right? So basically in the book it states that you can't be whoever you want to be, but you can be more of who you are based on your natural talents that was given to you at birth. So basically you have five main talents, and out of those five main talents, there's out of a pool of 30 plus talents, five of them is going to be your strongest one, and you want to funnel all your energy in those five talents. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting your time because you're going to be spending your life working on an area where you're terrible at. And you know, we live in a competitive workplace, and you can't compete with someone that's using their top five strength versus someone that's using their weakest. So basically, that's my example for blast, right? Now,
Sure.
if I was using play, how I would use play is like, oh yeah, I read this book called Strength Finder 2.0, and my five strengths was activator, communication, ideation, command, and individualization. And I realized when I was like looking back at my experience, like working with my clients, that yeah, I was pretty good at like helping them with their training program. This is what I did, and they got this result. So can you see the difference between play and blast now? Like how I use both of those differently?
I can see how you use them differently. I'm trying to relate them back to the components. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I'm just saying how I would
Right.
interpret it
But
because
this is my blast and this is my play. It's different from yours, right? I have NT play and I have ST blast, right? So what is like yours is supposed to be NF blast, but I haven't heard you blast anything NF, right? Like no, not a single like this is what the tribe should be valuing, you know, like
sure.
abstract. Like there's nothing. But there's no SF play either. Like I haven't seen any SF play, so it's like almost like a black hole right now.
Well, at least we can say with some level of certainty or some level of confidence that I'm sleep consumer, consume sleep or something.
That is super obvious. We can't. There's no arguing with that you're sleep consume or consume sleep. That is definitely a hard fact at this point. But with that being said, let's go. I'm trying to see here. Let's go with your consume then. So your consume is ST. So
Yeah.
how do you use your ST consume? Do you consume like facts then, like numbers and details? Like how do you use your ST consume?
I think I did more of that. I did something that could be more described as that more frequently when I was younger. I would read a lot of animal encyclopedias, dinosaurs, just even like literally an animal, like every single animal that, I don't know if that was probably not every single animal, but like it was just an animal encyclopedia that for all extant species of animals. Like I said, not all of them. They're just extant species opposed to extinct species. But like, just stuff like that when I was little. I don't really do that much currently, though. I wouldn't say. But yeah, I used to do that when I was little, but not. I know what I think I have a good idea of what that would look like. I think I have a pretty good idea of what ST consume. I think I have a more what I would describe as I do more F consume, even though I understand that that's not what my type would say, but like in terms of listening to the podcasts I listen to, they're more entertainment focused. I'd say they're not really a lot of technical information. I'll listen to like maybe there's not that many honestly like typology podcasts out there that I listen to like actual play RPG podcasts like tabletop Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. I'll listen to that more than I'll listen to like technical informational podcasts relating to typology. I'll think about typology a lot, but I won't actually consume on that type of information that frequently.
So you're almost making it seem like you consume SF. That's the kind of stuff that you like to consume.
Maybe NF because it's imaginary, but I'm not sure. I'm just spitballing here, honestly.
Okay, it could be NF/SF. But let's go approach this from a different angle. How did you come out as an IJ? Like, are you afraid of chaos? Is that something that you try to avoid then, or?
I mean, improv is just chaos, and I have a good time doing that. And I'm like I said, I was pretty good at it too when I did it.
But how do you prepare though? Because they recently showed a video of this INFJ guy. I think Frank James is his name, and he has Play+Se supposedly, and they showed what he did behind the scenes, and he would create a script for his YouTube video, and he would make sure that all the equipment is working, and he would double check to make sure that everything is working fine so that there is no chaos. So there is like that over planning to prevent chaos. So are you doing any of that at all? Like, are you doing any?
You literally can't do that with improv. With improv, you're really just you can't prepare. I mean, you can practice coming up with stuff, but when you're actually performing, it's literally just you're responding in the moment to what other people do and what other people say and how the crowd reacts, and what you come up with in the moment. There's not, and because improv is like it's like improvisational comedy. There's no script at all.
But Eminem is doing improv also. So he reads a dictionary so that he can expand his vocabulary, and then he would have rap battles with other people. And you can't prepare a rap battle. It's in the moment, right? You're taking.
I would maybe disagree because I think that, well, I mean, depending on how deep you get into like how people freestyle and stuff like that with rap, like what people will do is that they'll go in and out of written stuff and stuff they think of on the spot. But it's not necessarily always that. And even with like that example of Eminem, when he's like doing all that preparation, I mean, the prep, like there, you would, I guess the two things, like with improv, like when I was doing it in college, like they gave us a book to read. I never read it. Like it was on how to do improv. I never read it. Some people like could quote their favorite passage out of that book or the favorite tip. I just didn't do it. But in terms of the preparing that everybody does, it's just playing improv games in practice that you would do on stage later. So it's not like that's what everybody, that's how you prepare for improv. You can't just like not do anything at all and then just go up and do it because you won't have developed the skills. Like playing basketball to an extent, there's plays that you can run, but even in improv, there's not really any plays. And with improv, it's more like it's more just like a pickup game. Or maybe the plays are the games, so I'm not sure. But yeah, so I guess that's my perspective on that.
Okay.
But the problem with having that is like my play is that's more F play, and you can't have F play and F consume. So.
Okay. Well, it's definitely a tough call to see if you're an IJ or not. But
I can also talk more about I don't know if you wanted to say something. I don't know if I responded adequately to the chaos question, the control chaos thing.
well,
I gave improv as an example, but
what about Jerry Seinfeld? He does stand-up comedy, and he is an IJ, right? So, do you relate to Jerry Seinfeld? He's supposed to be the same type as you, I think.
he is the same type, except actually, because he's supposed to be play last. So
Right. But if you were play last, sorry.
Exactly. I liked his latest special he did. I liked it better than his earlier stuff that he'd done before. Stand-up is and I've done stand-up too. That's a lot. I think it's a good mixture of blast and play with an emphasis on blast, because you're doing a lot of communicating, and there's some crowd work that gets worked in there, but not too much. No, not too much. Depends on the act. Depends on the comment. Some people can do an hour of just crowd work. But he focuses a lot more on the preparation and the presentation. He'll throw in a couple clips if somebody says something from the audience that can be pretty solid. But the point that I was making wasn't necessarily about comedy. It was more about, I was trying to see if I could describe it more, my relationship between control and chaos. I don't think I'm really, the way that Dave and Shan described it on the video is that like I'm trying to control the concepts a lot, but by concepts they can mean ideas, and they can also mean like the future, like they can mean like visions and like imagination. They can also mean like words and cognitive functions. So I wasn't so sure about that, but from what I can see of myself, however accurate that is, I don't think I'm very focused on controlling either the future or the present, I guess. Yeah.
I think, well, from what I can see, you're definitely NT. Like that is like a given, right? So, like if someone were if someone were to narrow you down, the NT is gonna be like the obvious one. Okay, you're NT for sure. There's no arguing that. You're definitely NT, right? But if I was typing you, I would also say like at first glance I'm like, okay, NT for sure, play last. That's there's some when they're doing a process of elimination, there's always some that is like what do you call it, like a no-brainer, or like an obvious thing. So me, like if I were to type you, I would think, oh my god, yeah, definitely NT and definitely play last, and those would be like the first two I would scratch off. And I would say, yeah, sleep, consume sleep for sure. Like those would be like the easy eliminations from my perspective. I think what's confusing me right now is I don't see any NF blast. That's why I don't know if you're an INFJ, because there's no NF blast at all, like zero. So have you considered being a different a different type?
Oh yeah. I've considered like
IP or something, or like an INTJ or something like that.
Well, for me, it's not necessarily about getting a type. It's more about explaining these patterns of behavior I've noticed in myself,
right?
Which are the introspection, which is just like this whole process of self-analysis and self-understanding, as well as this skepticism or questioning or doubt.
What's happening inside your head when you're doing the sleep processing?
Well, if I don't think I have that good a grasp of the sleep animal, because some people, or maybe I do, but I just don't because people will say that it's like an energy animal, which means it's about preserving energy. But that's like I'm just trying to understand stuff all the time. I don't spend time trying to be like, okay, and I understand what that would look like. I think to an extent it would be like, okay, well, I got to do this today. How can I do this less? Or how can I do this more efficiently? Or how can I, or maybe not even I have to do this today. It's like, what do I have to do today? What do I have to do today? Do I need to do this? Or can I put that off my plate? Do I need to do this? Like that type of stuff. Like that's how I understand what sleep would look like if it is if it's related to energy and conserving it. But so I don't really, yeah, I don't spend a lot of time trying to, from what I'm aware of, I don't spend that much time trying to, I mean, like I am, like I do try to like, not try to, I just don't really have that much on my plate naturally, but I don't spend that much time trying to consciously think it through. And I actually have a question for you about the why NT is obvious whenever we're done with this part of this discussion.
Do you want me to answer it now, or?
Or after, or I don't know if I answered your question or not when you were asking about NT sleep or just sleep.
No, you kind of did, but I'll loop back to it later. I gotta think about it first. But
sure.
I think you're always trying to figure something out. That's why I think you have.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, because when the moment you use the word trying to figure something out, you're now puzzling something, right? So that would make you very NT. I did see the double deciderness earlier, so I do think you're a double decider. I'm not gonna argue with that, especially earlier when I asked you some examples of, you know, if someone were to ask for help or whatever, or picking off the tribe, you seem to understand the point of view of the other person you're talking to. So that would indicate you're a double decider. So that kind of rules out the IP or EJs essentially. I think that the part that's leaving me stumped right now is I don't see a single like feeler at all. Like there's no, the only thing I got from you is that you consume SF, or it could be NF. So you're either consuming SF or NF. So that part is what I got off you earlier when you were talking about it. And maybe that's why you don't communicate it, because maybe there's no F on that's going outwards.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
The F is going inwards, but there's no F going outwards. So
right.
So in that case, it makes it a little bit more confusing, right? Because if there's no F going outward, then
because right, if you think about how I'm communicating right now, which could maybe be a form of blast play, there's not that much focus on like emotions or feelings. And generally when I speak, that's the case. Like I'm not very effusive.
No, there's zero communication of emotions at all. Like nothing. The whole conversation since we started has been on figuring something out, right? Figuring you out essentially. But well, why don't we go to the topic of feelings then, and let's see how you do. Okay.
Sure.
Let's see how you do. So, what's a good example here? Tell me about your hobbies. What do you enjoy doing? Like, what is your hobby? And tell me how you feel when you engage in those hobbies.
It's easier to talk about my hobbies and how I feel when I do them. Mostly like music and I mean, there's music, there's comedy, there's and my interest in comedy right now primarily revolves around just absorbing it, taking it in, which is more F consume. But with music and with music's primarily taking it in. I can't really, like, it's hard for me to actually like write lyrics. I'm getting into the technicalities. I'm not really talking about like how I feel when I do them. I'm not really sure. That's the thing. I don't really spend that much time on recreation, so it's not really that much of a focus for me. It's mostly, like I do to an extent, but it's mostly just, like you said, trying to figure stuff out.
Okay, let me see something here. Have you ever considered that it's possible you might have a feeling function as your fourth one? You know, let's get rid of the double deciderness thing. Maybe
Yeah.
FE or FI at the bottom.
Sure.
Now,
yeah.
um, you said that you can only feel your feelings when you're doing it. So that could be an indicator that it's FE.
Well, what I was saying was that, just so I'm not miscommunicating, it was that, it wasn't that I can only, it was more that I don't think I said that. I think I said, I don't know what you're referencing, but I don't think I said that. I think I can maybe reiterate myself and say that, like, when I'm doing these things, I don't really know I don't know how I feel when I'm doing them. I just know that I do them. Not necessarily like when I'm doing them, I have this emotional experience. It's just that I spend more time doing other stuff. So, and I'm just not really, I don't categorize really how I feel and notice how I feel that much. I don't think. It's not like when I'm, let's say, listening to a podcast and they're about, it's like some D&D campaign or something like that. It's not like I'm noticing my emotional state as I'm listening to the podcast, I would say. I don't think I do that. I guess that's what I was saying more.
When does your emotions come out? Because it doesn't seem like you emote much emotion to begin with.
No, I don't. I can think of specific examples. I can't think of like patterns that occur that actually reoccur in time. Like I can think of times I've been emotional or expressed emotion.
Can you tell me some stories then when you felt emotional or expressed emotion?
Yeah. Mostly like negative emotions, like frustration or being misunderstood in like familial situations from time to time. That's the example. Those are the examples that come to mind. I'm really not that emotional of a person. Like they're not that much on my radar. They're not really anything I need to deal with that much.
Have you ever had an emotional outburst ever in your life?
Yeah, like that's kind of what I'm referring to with with what I said just before.
And then it's just frustration. That's the only emotion that has burst out. Like,
yeah, not really sadness. I can't remember. Like the last time I cried at something sad, I can't really remember.
what about anger?
Yeah, frustration, anger. Yeah.
Okay. What about like extreme joy? Like you were laughing out loud, like really uncontrollable laughter.
Yeah, a couple times with that. Like probably that's about as frequent as the outbursts, but they haven't happened in years. Either of them really. Like I can't remember the last time I laughed uncontrollably, or I had like this outburst of frustration or anger. But I've experienced both of those. Yeah.
I think I see now why they type you as NTST, because your savior state is NTST. There's no NF or SF, right? So
Sure.
the fact that you're not feeling it inside, I'm FI, so I feel emotions all the time. Like at any given time, I'm feeling emotions. Even though my feelings are demons, I can feel them at any given time. Because I'm the same as you, actually. I'm also NTST.
Huh.
But I'm feeling emotions all the time. And I have emotional outbursts all the time. So that's where it kind of is a little bit different. Let me think here. Because, so technically you're supposed to be NF last then, right? Technically. That's if you're blast last.
Yep.
Okay. I think the reason why another reason that could possibly be that you're blast last is you haven't said anything NF either. You talk about SF stuff. You talk about like stand up. You talked about improv. You talk about like listen to like podcasts on fun stuff like entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of SF stuff, right? But there's like zero NF presence at all. Like there's no.
Would you? Sure. I'm not necessarily using no, I guess I might be using things that agree with OP terminology, but in terms of stand up. I would say, like, at least in my current understanding, like I'd say SF is more along the lines of like maybe music and maybe just more instrument. Like if I had to describe SF or give an example of SF, I give like instrumental music because there's no meaning, there's no concepts. It's just the sound. And then I would describe more NF is more like stuff like stand-up and improv where you need to rely on the concepts a lot more. And it's how you present them in a humorous or engaging way that's actually creates the effect. But like that's just how I would understand it at this point.
I don't think that's NF at all, because I think what you were doing with the stand-up and improv is you're using NT to figure it out, and then the end result is SF, which is people like it, right? NF is more like what's the point, like what's valuable in the abstract world. So I'll give you an example. One of my favorite books of all time is The Alchemist, and the hero's journey in Alchemist is like the biggest example of NF. So basically, when you go to a hero's journey, the first step in a hero's journey is you get beginner's luck. So things are going well for you and you get beginner's luck, right? And then on the first stage too, because you're getting that early success, you might be convinced, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna stick it through doing this thing because I'm doing well already. But according to in the book, The Alchemist, what they really obsess over is something called your personal legend, which is essentially your life mission. It's like the little voice that talks to you inside your head that tells you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. So basically in the book, the second stage is that he went on another journey to go to this oasis because his goal in the book is to go see the pyramids. So he goes to the oasis, he meets a girl of his dreams, and he's comfortable. There was some obstacle on his way to that desert oasis, but he overcame that obstacle, and now he's very comfortable in this oasis. But there was a voice inside his head that said, hey, you know what? No, you need to fulfill your personal legend, and your personal legend is to go to Egypt. So, he leaves his girlfriend there, leaves everything behind, leaves his perfect life because deep down inside, he felt like he needs to complete his life mission. So he gets to the end, which is the pyramids. He almost dies, but he finds the map where the treasure is, essentially, which is his personal legend, which has always been at home. So he goes back home to Europe, finds his treasure, and the lesson is pretty much, it's like the hero's journey, right? It's like, it starts off with like beginner's luck, and then as you go along, it gets harder and harder, and the last bit to get to your finish line is very slow moving, very painful, very difficult, but those who persevere will reach that destination, and after they reach the destination, then maybe they'll find out that, hey, you know what? My happiness is really back home. So that's kind of like what NF is, right? I don't know if that made sense to you, the story, but
well, I think what you're describing, if I'm just gonna,
go ahead.
I guess not paraphrase, but I guess that's close enough for a word. It's like the I guess meaning is a good word in terms of value. It's like what you said earlier about like NF last, like this is what the tribe should be valuing.
Right.
I can say that with stand up and improv, I didn't NT figure anything out. I can say with some level of certainty. There was never a point in time. Like I didn't read anything. I don't read anything on that type of stuff. I don't have like a plan. I don't see like, okay, I don't have a formula really.
Okay.
Yeah, I can say that though. But the reason why I don't want to get hung up on this, but even with what you said about NF being about abstract value, right?
Right.
I really see, it's hard for me not to see stand up because you can't, because it's abstract because of the at least in my view or my sense, because you're relying on the meaning that you make out of your situation. You're not just going up there and just doing a goofy dance. You're not Charlie Chaplining it. You're like remarking on society and saying, you know what, these people out here, they're always doing this, but what does that really mean? Like, what are they really doing? They're doing this. Yeah, so that's the end part. And it's not like saying, I don't even know how you would NT that. But it's really the F part comes in like, and this is the point. This is bad because this is funny because this is good because this, you know. And with improv, you have a scene that you're doing, you're it's the same type of thing. You're literally using your imagination because there's nothing out there in front of you. So I mean, yeah, it's just still, it's harder. Well, we don't need to get hung up on this obviously, but that's just why it's harder for me to see that as SF at this point.
When you were just explaining to me what that was, you kept using the word because this. So it's like reasons, right? So, okay, I don't know. It's tough for sure. I don't see the NF in you though. So.
Oh no, I wasn't necessarily arguing for having NF savior. I was just more saying why it was difficult for me to see improv and stand-up as SF activities. That's all I was saying.
Well, SF is what people think is cool, right? So that the reaction of the crowd when you're doing your stand-up or improv is the SF essentially. It's people thinking if you're SF or not, essentially. You know, you're doing improv. Like what is the purpose of doing improv, right? It's or stand-up comedy.
Oh, I think I see what you're saying. You're saying that it doesn't really have that much of an abstract lesson or abstract.
There's no abstract meaning. Yes.
I see.
Like what is the payoff when you're doing a stand-up comedy? You're trying to get people to laugh, right? When you hear people laughing, that means you did a good job, right? If they're not laughing, then you did a shitty job, right? That's
sure.
Yeah, that's essentially what, like that's your only measure. Like that's why what's his name? Jerry Seinfeld liked stand-up comedy because he said it was pure. Like you get a feedback right away if you are doing good or not, right? You know.
But you're saying because it's so. What would an example of more? I guess maybe an example might help. In terms of me. Well, I guess I don't necessarily need to. Where are you trying to? What else are you trying to figure out? I guess.
I'm just trying to figure out what you're last at because we've covered a lot of your bases already. I do see the slide because you corrected me a few times. It does seem like you're info dominant actually, because I said something earlier and you tried to correct me to make sure that we have the right information. So I am seeing that info dominant in you, even though you're not doing any blast per se or NF blast. I also don't see any SF play at the same time. So I don't know if you're typed correctly or not. I do agree that you're NT first, for sure. I also agree that you are ST second. And I don't know if you're NF above SF or if you're SF above NF. It seems to me that you do have play last. And I don't know if you are an IJ as well at the same time, because if you're lacking play and you're lacking NF, that would make you an ENTP then, that would make you an ENTP. And it would make you a consume first ENTP because of the NETI.
Lacking play and NF, that would make me a
ENTP.
Like an ST sleep type. Is that what you mean? Or
yes, so your sleep will be ST, because I think earlier you were discussing to me how in your head you were kind of thinking, okay, what should I be doing? And doing means step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this, right? Which is like SI and TI, right? You're trying to figure out the logical sequence of how you're going to do something.
That's the other thing is that I forgot to mention this. This is probably a good point. Like the skepticism and the questioning, it's about not allowing myself to make assumptions. I think that's really what it's about to an extent, because I'm saying, wait, whoa, we don't have all the facts in yet. Let's be careful about this.
Yeah.
At least that's how I see it more. It's not really like hey, I'm just going crazy with just extrapolating and guessing and stuff like that. It's really when I get really, maybe it's the tension point between those two things. it's the tension point between the NT and the ST that I'm noticing, because I'll be guessing, not guessing, but I'll be extrapolating to an extent and just making conclusions. Then on the other side, I'll swing back and be like, wait, how do we know that? What do we mean by that? Let's clarify, let's clarify, let's clarify.
Well, the fact that you don't want to make any assumptions already states that you're info dominant. You know, like
Okay.
I haven't seen you at all do anything that's energy dominant since we started this interview. As a matter of fact, you've been very engaged with trying to get the accurate information about your typing result, which, you know, points to the direction that clearly you're info dominant, and for you, getting the accurate information is what you want. And if you're missing play, that's the vibe I'm getting off you at least. And if I have not heard a single NF talk at all since we started this interview, then that would mean the NF that you're missing is NE-Fe, which is the ENTP's play. Now, you were telling me that you like to do stand-up comedy and you like to do improv, and that's a form of blast, right? Now your blast, if you were an ENTP, your blast would be SF then. So you would go up on stage, and if you're doing like a stand-up comedy, which is a performance essentially, wouldn't you agree that's a blast? That's an SF blast. So
I would definitely say it's blast. And we're in different places regarding the SF versus the NF, but I would definitely say it's an F blast. But the other stuff you said adds up in terms of being lack of NF, lack of play, resulting in ST sleep, which would result in SF blast. So that adds up. So.
Okay. Why would you have NI over NE? That's kind of like, I'm curious about that.
Why would I have NI over NE? Oh, I'm not sure. Are you just asking that just?
I'm curious. Yeah. I mean, because you couldn't explain NI earlier, but
I can see what NE is. Like I can see, I think, well, in my own definition at least, it's like, I'd almost describe it as like abstract creativity. I don't know how much that resonates with you, but it's more like when I see people on stage, I mean, in the past when I've seen people on stage just coming up with stuff on the spot and making comparisons and analogies and stuff like that really quickly, I said like, oh, that looks kind of like what people describe NE to be like. So, and I can see what that is to an extent. And I can spot it maybe a bit more in reality, but I don't know how much well, I mean, that's the thing, I wouldn't do it that much compared to TI if I was a ST, NT, sleep, consume type. But I don't have that. I don't have as solid or confident grasp on the letters and animals and stuff like that as other people do.
From my personal perspective, I feel convinced that you are not an INFJ. I feel like you are an ENTP, play last, consume sleep, which is accurate based on what Dave and Shannon kind of type you as having that consume and sleep together. And then blast, and then play. And then the blast is coming from that improv, like the stand-up, it's a one-way street too, right? But then because from what I see, if potentially you have NE, then you're quick on your feet, so you can engage the tribe if you need to with that NE, right? With like a quick thought to add to your improv, essentially. Come up with an idea spot to add into your to whatever you're saying. It's also in the present moment too, right? Because NE is very much in the present moment, right? Like what idea I came up with right now,
Sure.
It's not something I plan over and I'm forcing it into like a box, right?
Yeah, that's more stand-up.
Yeah, and I don't see you forcing anything to a box either. Like since we started this conversation, I haven't seen you force anything to a box. So it's and there was yeah, I mean like just for me, because I didn't see a single like feeler thing at all. It is definitely accurate that you do have like a T for your two saviors. I don't know if you're an IJ though. I don't see it. You're nothing like Otim at all or Chris. Like you guys have no resemblance whatsoever. Like
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. Not whatsoever. We're both maybe more on the quiet side to an extent, but
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, the only thing you guys have in common is you're both black. Like you know, that's like that's as far as it goes, right? Like, so but there's
he's British, not American. So
yeah, but yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
But you kind of look similar to that guy in Jurassic Park, in Jurassic World. Sorry, you know the guy there's a guy.
No, I don't. Is this one of the new ones?
Yeah, Jurassic World 2, I think. The guy that
I haven't seen it.
yeah, there's a black guy in that movie, but he's not like the gangster black guy. He's more like the nerdy black guy. So you know, it's like
That's me.
yeah. So I think that's why like, and you guys have like the same facial structure. The only thing I can see that's different is that maybe he's double feminine. You know, 'cause you definitely don't come across as double feminine to me. If anything, you come across double masculine. If anything,
People said that too. People said that too, that I might be double masculine.
yeah, you do come across as double masculine. Like I like you just have this vibe of like double masculine. Like you're that yeah, it just seems like you're double masculine. In my eyes, but again, you haven't been you haven't shown that you were masculine or feminine with the tribe either. Like it's kind of neutral. So, but it's just that the vibe you're giving off is double masculine. You know.
That would make me. Well, it would make me like if I'm the type that you're seeing, it would be masculine FE, right?
You would be masculine FE and masculine
SI.
SI. Or
Yeah.
if you were an INFJ, it's masculine FE and masculine SE. So why don't we go with this? Actually, this is a very good question. Your personal belongings, your objects. What kind of do you find your things to be personal or not?
I did in the past. I've grown out to it to an extent. Like it used to be really intense when I was little. Like I would cry if I had a balloon in the car and it flew out of the window.
Yeah.
Like a balloon I got at a party or something like 10 minutes ago. And it flew out the window, I'd cry.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I think I still maybe have that to an extent. Like I have like a bit of a reluctance to give up things or objects that I spent time with, I guess.
So there's like a sentimentalness to the object, or like
yeah.
And then do you get possessive with your stuff? Like if someone's gonna take your stuff, do you get like, hey, don't touch my stuff, you know, or
no,
like
my brother might be a bit more like that. I'm not too much like that. I can see that in contrast. So I can more confidently say that that's not more.
If someone borrows your stuff and damages it, how would you react to it?
My what?
Someone borrows like something from you and they damage that thing, how would you react?
I don't think it would be that intense, honestly.
What do you have that's expensive?
Not a lot. I have this computer. That's probably the most expensive
Okay,
thing.
what if someone like drops your laptop or like takes your laptop, you know, and drops it back in?
If it's broken, then I guess they'd have to, that I would hope that they would help me recoup the cost.
Yeah.
If they were in possession of when it got damaged. I mean, actually, this is a 2013 Mac actually, so it's kind of old. But so, I wouldn't flare up. I don't really, yeah.
Okay. If you lost all your stuff today, like everything burns down, how would you react?
I don't think I would react that strongly. I mean, I'm projecting, but or not projecting, but extrapolating, but I don't think I would.
Like you wouldn't care? Like if you were to lose everything today, like all your personal physical belongings.
I mean, I don't have insurance on this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't have that much, I don't, The hard part would be replacing it just practically, but it wouldn't really like sentimentally like, no, my backpack, no, my computer. That wouldn't really come up.
So your stuff is not personal then?
Like I said, it might have been, and also like that wasn't really stuff that I was losing. That like the stuff I was referencing from childhood, that was more just like it's just weird. There's just this weird attachment to like, just like, oh, I have this beach ball on the beach and I'm playing with it for 10 minutes, and now it's somebody took it or it got lost in the ocean or whatever, and I was crying, like that type of thing. I don't know what that is, but it's not the same thing that you're talking about. I don't think that they, to the extent that you're referring to now, I don't think.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out is, from what I've seen, people with masculine SI get really possessive and territorial with their stuff, while people with feminine SI get sentimental with their stuff. So if you were to lose like an important object, you would start crying if you have feminine SI. But if you had masculine SI and you lose something, then you would get like really angry and pissed off, right? But then from what you're saying, it sounds like you maybe have more SE then. I don't know. Like it does sound like it does sound like you have FE though for sure. Because if you start crying out loud because of losing your balloons, or your beach ball gets taken by the beach or something, like that seems like you do have FE, and it's a demon for sure. So that's the only thing I can think of. So I don't know, man. It's kind of tough. You're a tough case. You're a tough one to type. But
you're telling me. I'm the one trying to figure this out for a while. But
yeah. Are you someone that overplans something, or do you just jump in and do something?
Yeah, I don't really plan stuff. That's the other thing that I never really saw with NI. Not much. I can't think of any plans that I've actually. I don't come up with plans really. I just. I don't really come up with plans. I don't think that much.
If someone were to control you, how would you react?
I don't like it.
Like someone imposes a rule on you.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't really like being. That's more being not being beholden to it, being under the thumb of somebody else. Not a big fan of that.
How would you react to doing the same job for the rest of your life?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. If there's a bit of variety with it, because you can have a job with variety, you can have a job with no variety.
Yeah.
If it's just like pencil pushing or whatever that phrase means, and it's just like making widgets at a factory or something like that, then that's pretty soul-sucking.
How old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, 25.
25. Okay. Are you still in school, or did you finish school, or?
Yeah, I finished school. I'm working my first job right now.
What did you major in?
Brain and cognitive sciences.
And what is your job right now?
Data scientist at a neuroscience lab.
What do you do for your job? Like, what is?
Surprisingly little data science related stuff. I'm actually prototyping like a experimental apparatus using some CAD design, some CAD tools, doing some circuit design stuff.
Okay. Well, I think I'm tapped out at this point.
Too much.
I don't think you're an INFJ though. Just from this is just my perspective. Obviously, I'll respect.
Sure.
I respect David Chan's how they type you, and I don't know what the process is. If I could take a peek at how they got, like, if they show me the work, I could kind of. I wish they actually did that. They show you the work and how they got to your typing.
Yeah.
Because I first of all, I don't even know how you became an IJ. Are you? I don't see you freaking out about the chaos.
They were saying that I had a missing in like a big. I think the thing that they noticed a lot was that I had they thought they saw a lot was a missing information problem.
Okay.
In terms of that's how they, I think, explained the doubt. was through like, oh, he's rejecting the SE. Yeah, that's how they explained it at least.
But since we started this conversation, I didn't see you reject a single SE. So I don't know if you sent them the wrong video. Like maybe the video.
No. I mean, I think that I sent them in the video I sent. Like I talked a lot about. It's just how they interpreted it, really.
Right.
And
right.
it also there wasn't like a conversational type thing either. So.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's really tough because I mean, if you had SI also, you would be going step by step by step by step, and I don't see you going step by step either. So so it makes for a really tough case then to figure out like what your what your type is. All I know right now for sure is that you definitely have sleep consume or consume sleep in the first two. That one is a given. Masculine, feminine, I'm not sure. I think you do have masculine sensory. When it comes to the tribe, I don't know if you're masculine with a tribe or feminine with a tribe. You come across as double masculine, but you've been quite easy to talk to at the same time. Like you haven't been like you know masculine with a tribe means you're pretty direct and pushy with a tribe. You haven't been direct and super pushy at the same time. So I think masculine feminine sound pretty legitimate. So I'm kind of stuck in your like last two animals. At the same time, you do seem like you're info dominant. Like you're definitely obsessing over the information as opposed to obsessing over energy preservation. So or energy expenditure / preservation. Like you're not like
energy management, maybe.
Energy management. Sorry, that's the word I'm trying to look for. Yeah. And the fact that you use the word energy management, you were looking for like this precise word, right? So it's like, again, info dominant again. So a TI, it could be TI also because you want to be accurate with the definitions too, right? So so I do think you have TI. That one is for sure. The opposite of TI is FE. I do think you have FE as well. The SE and NI is a little bit confusing. I can't say if you have one or the other. I don't have enough proof. So that's it, man. I'm tapped out. Do you have any questions for me before we wrap up this interview on about my functions? Because I'm an ENFP, NETE, play, blast, consume, sleep, and I have NE, FI, TE, and SI. Do you have any questions about those functions?
Maybe about the NE and how do you experience? I don't know, maybe the tension of the NE and SI. Or like, how do you, because they're like one's a savior, one's a demon. So, how do you kind of like experience that tension, I guess?
Well, with the NE, I can see all the incoming chaos that's going to happen to me, right? For example, I know my taxes are coming up soon and I need to pay my taxes. Now, in order for me to pay my taxes, I need to organize my sensory, all my receipts, my T4, which is like the statement you get from your employer of how much you earned that previous year. So I have to organize all that information. And then if I organize that information, I can prevent the chaos essentially, right? So that's kind of like how the balance would work is that I see the chaos, and for me to overcome the chaos, I need to organize the sensory and then blast it, like present it to the world essentially. So either me presenting it to my accountant, in the case of this example, but it could be another example too, like for example, my FI tells me, hey, I want to be a YouTuber. So what do I do then as a YouTuber? Well, I'm going to use my NE to kind of gather the information out there to see what I need to do in order to be a successful YouTuber. Once I figured that out, then I need to organize it so that I can blast a YouTube video. So essentially, I'm organizing like a lesson. I'm going to give a lesson to people who's watching, right? But at the same time, I also need to use my SI to prioritize what I like because I have FI and SI, right? So I have to kind of like look back into my past and be like, okay, I did this and I hated it, so I'm not going to do it again. But I did this and surprisingly, I liked it, so I need to do more of that. So it's more FI. It's more like what I like, right? Like what I like, what I hated. And I'm going to filter it based on what happened to me in the past because SI is also like a filter from the past, right? So based on my past experience, this is what I learned. And because I learned that, I'm going to prioritize this as like the main thing I should focus on. I'll give you an example. So like when you start a business, there's two ways to approach it, right? The first way is like, you can go all in with no safety net, because a lot of people thrive off that, right? Like a lot of people, because of the pressure, they get really like they work really hard. But at the same time, maybe I'm the kind of person that needs a safety net, right? So guess what? I've now, from my perspective, I've already done both. I went all in on my business before. I've done it twice actually. And I've also worked on my business when I had a job. And what did I find out based on my two different experiences? That I did better on the business side of things when I had a job and I was building my business. Because for me, I didn't like the pressure. I didn't like feeling needy for money when I went all in, because it was no longer about customer service to my customers. It now became me trying to get money off from you. But when I had a job, then I was getting money from the job on a regular basis. Therefore, I wasn't on a place where I was like, hey, I need money from you. Otherwise, I won't have food to eat, right? I was instead coming from a place where, you know what, I'm growing my business. My goal here is to provide the best customer service. If I don't make that much money right now, that's fine, because in the long run, I will get enough business, because I know that the math shows that if you just keep giving customer service and you get good feedback from those customers, they're going to refer you to other people and you're going to get more customers in the long run. Gary Vee talks about that from branding, right? When it comes to branding, like help people first. Don't expect anything on the short term. In the long run, you're going to build a positive tidal wave, essentially. Speaking NF like. But that's how I filtered myself using my FI and my SI. So for my experience, I like this better. Like this one works better for me. So that's how I use my SI along with my NE. I don't know if that makes sense or that helped explain that.
No, yeah, that makes sense, I think. Only other questions I would have were just, I don't know if we got to this, but did you have any perspective on the skepticism, where that might be coming from, and the more introspective tendencies, those two things?
Okay, this is just my opinion. Okay, the people that I find to be a big skeptic are people who usually are with TI. People with T kind of shit on the logic sometimes, and people with TI want to make sure it's the most accurate data. So yeah. if they don't meet the accuracy of the definition, then they will be skeptical. Skepticism will be your natural state, essentially. But if people can provide you with the right data, the right SE, then that skepticism kind of goes away, provided that there is enough data to support that logic provided to you. So in that sense, it would make sense that you're an INFJ if that is indeed true, right? I mean, who else has the same function stack as an INFJ? Like it would be
celebrities or
no, like other personality types. So you
oh, I see.
Yeah, you would be an ENFJ or ISTP or ESTP, right? Those would be the only option. I'm not quite sure if I saw you use a lot of N. That could be another case. But I would certainly think that you're not N last, because you're definitely NT. So so I don't know where to place that. Also. So yeah, you're definitely a tough case to crack, man. It's
yeah. I get that a lot. Did you have any?
Did Dave and Shan tell you that they had a hard time typing you?
No, they got the same thing first go.
First go, okay. Well, I don't know. I have no clue, but that's.
Did you have a perspective on the only other the introspection? Did you have a perspective on that? Just the process of trying to understand yourself and trying to better understand why you do what you do. Yeah, that type of thing.
No, I don't have any. I don't really have any big opinion on that, other than if we're going through introspection per se, it would definitely point that you are whatever they type you as, like, because it would make sense. The NITI would make sense. Because you're processing it inside, you're not consuming it, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you're consuming it or not. That's the thing. The fact that you're asking me makes me suspicious that you're consuming it. You're trying to consume the NT for me, So that in that sense, okay, I'm a little bit suspicious then, Like maybe you are not sleep NT, maybe you're consume NT. But if you were consume NT, then the only option is INTP or ENTP then, right? But it doesn't seem like you have SI. It seems like you have SE because you're trying to gather the facts. So it's a big contradiction, and I'm so.
I was just wondering. Yeah, I understand.
What did Benjamin think? Because you did an interview with him, right?
Yeah, I did a couple. I did a quad review with me, Manny, Chris, and him, and then I just did a one-on-one with him. I don't remember. I think he might have been. He wasn't as his opinion on my type wasn't as shifted as yours compared to David Chance.
What's his point of view?
I think he might. I don't think he actually offered like or put forward a specific type. I don't think.
Oh.
I don't think he said like you are. I mean, he might have. I think like in the YouTube video, he was like trying to maybe not solicit opinions, but there's a comment thread in like the quad review one where he's going back and forth with a few people about my type, but he doesn't seem to like say like, oh, this guy's definitely this. You know?
Right. So he wasn't gonna offer up his opinion. He kind of he was just unsure.
Yeah, unsure, maybe leaning a bit towards what David Chen said, but I don't even know if that's consistent with what he thinks now. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, so in my computer, I just took a picture of the guy from Jurassic World, and I'm putting his face right beside yours right now. And I think we can share it using Zoom. So let me see if I can. This is more SF now. I'm trying to see if, like for the fun of it. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm gonna go see if I can share screen right now, just because I think it's like right when I saw it, I thought it was kind of funny. Okay, can you see the screen that I have of him?
I see that a bit. I can see a bit of that. His eyes are a bit thinner, but yeah, I can see that a bit.
Yeah, his face looks exactly like yours, except maybe double feminine. You know, like.
Yeah, it's kind of I can see that a lot actually.
Yeah, dude, that he is you.
You should look up. I found this guy in middle school. It's just a British rapper called Chipmunk.
Yeah.
He looks like me too, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because right when I was talking to you, I was like, "You look familiar. I've seen your face somewhere before. I don't know where." And I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, Jurassic World 2. Yeah, I remember that guy. He would be like a double masculine version of him, or masculine feminine, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I hadn't seen that movie, but yeah.
Yeah, go watch it and see if you hate him, because apparently, if the person's the same type as you, you're supposed to hate them, right, or dislike them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Garrett. Thanks for doing this interview, man.
Absolutely, it's been fun.
All right, I'm gonna stop this interview now. So bye, everyone.